Well, we're going to call the Ukiah Valley Sanitation District's regular meeting of Wednesday, February 12th, 2020 to order at 6:04, and we'd like to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so then we need to do roll call.
Chair Witt.
Here.
Vice Chair Marshall.
Present.
Director Horsley. Here. Director Baucom. Here. Director McNair. Present.
Okay, then we have public expression. If the district encourages anyone who has an issue to make their issue known, and you can make your expression on any item that's on the agenda when it's being discussed. So, any public comment? No public comment. Good. Okay, so we'll go on to item 3, the approval of the board meeting minutes of January 8th, January 27th special meeting, and January 29th special meeting.
I move approval of all 3.
I second it.
Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So it carries. Okay, the consent calendar, the check register for January 2020, and the county expenses for January 2020. Does anybody have any comments, questions? Okay.
Thank you. I am assuming once the refinancing is complete and a couple of outstanding items, that the attorney's time will probably be reduced. Do you see anything in the foreseeable future that would require an inordinate amount of time from the attorneys?
One item that I can take a Candace is the discussion about how the district and the city is going to be handling the sewer connection issue that's raised with the jail. And then I think there's probably others, so we want to review that, the whole policy on that, how much time that will with the attorneys. I think a lot of it should be handled with staff. It's just a matter of developing policy that both the district and the city agree on. And if we can agree on it, then I don't see any reason why we should have legal counseling.
And we're also going to need maybe some legal assistance on the LAFCO questionnaire that you sent me.
We do have John Sharper who was
Okay,
on that, and I'll be reporting on that, but that should be wrapped
that's
up.
understandable. Okay, great.
Did you read that? It's quite lengthy. It's I've probably gone through one or two of them.
I've done several, yes.
Anyway, so other than that, do we have a motion to accept them, or anybody else have any comments?
Chair, if public comment on this item.
Public comment on this item? Public comment? Thank you. So all in favor? Or make a motion, excuse me.
I make the motion.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes. Okay, now the item 5 would be discussion of possible action, amending policy number 5010.
And if I may, Chair, I believe that was tabled, and so there has to be a motion to untable that before there's any discussion.
I make a motion to untable it.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Do we need public comment on that?
You get public comment on the general item.
Okay, so, anybody, what's the comments?
Julie, I think this is your.
I kind of wanted to discuss the rotation. We talked about, we wanted to wait, Ken, because you were missing last meeting. So, we wanted to talk about, Candace brought up, putting in a few words about seniority as the rotation. So it would be 1 through 5, with the chair being the last number 5 and the vice chair 4, because you're already in the positions and you rotate in, and then the last 3 members, it's by seniority. So how did you think?
Well, I was just thinking, I think what I said was, in the sense it says then, comma, the next person in line by seniority will rotate in. Or will rotate in by seniority, wherever you want to put that, where you think it fits. But you have to have some methodology
Would
for,
that mean your 2 senior people would just be rotating in and out?
no, it's seniority, not the 2 senior people, but you go after this, you start with the next senior, then the next senior, the next senior. Of course, as there's an election, whoever comes in that hasn't been here before are the juniors. So then they would be number 4 and 5.
So if Bernie rotates out, the next senior person would be me, but I started before him. And then the next senior person after me would be him.
But he's already
vice
transferred
chair.
into,
Yeah.
but when Ernie rotates out, he already rotates.
So I would slide back into vice chair.
And then that would be either you or Julie, depending on,
Well,
yeah,
Yes,
seniority. Yeah.
10 years, Julie, that's
Yeah.
2, so, you know,
so like,
I don't know, I feel that electing them is probably, I looked at several other boards, and a lot of special district boards, that's the way it works, is through an election. But,
And with the city, it's rotation by seniority.
County board of supervisors.
It's rotation by seniority. I think the difference is if you have something, a very specific reason for someone needing to be elected, like for Inland Water and Power, for example, Janet Polly has been elected ever since the initiation of that, because she has all the experience professional. She's like the general manager for Inland, versus like a council or board of soups where that you have a general manager, so it's just a matter of rotating through for the chair, unless you feel that the chair needs a specific set of qualifications.
maybe that's why I'm hung up, because I have felt that the chair in this particular function needed a specific knowledge of the process, that not everyone has, okay? And not that I'm the sharpest tool in the shed, but I do have a very good knowledge of the sewer system and the workings of the system.
Well, not the process of running the meeting.
Not the process of running, no, I'm not very good at running the meeting, I'm not
okay.
saying that. I'll get better, but there's been so much information we've had to absorb, and there was members that weren't as engaged as they should have been, and I don't think that would have been a good scenario to rotate someone in to what's been going on over my tenure on this board. Okay, so that's just the way I felt about it. But I'm hoping that after this is all resolved, we show up and have a couple of cookies and talk about the pertinent business issues, and it doesn't take a lot of expertise, it just takes reading the material and being somewhat engaged.
I think that if it was purely just to conduct the meeting, that wouldn't be an issue, but I do think that, considering the contentious nature of the issues that happen between the board and city, I would prefer to have someone that really has a good background in the position of chair. And I do think that an election allows for people to support one candidate or another, as opposed to just a general rotation. We've had some board members here that I would be very, very cautious about having them in the chair position.
So the chair actually does do other things besides just running the meetings and.
Oh,
Well,
very much so.
Yeah.
But I, when Ernie and I were new on the board and his expertise in the sewer program, he was pulled in, when he was just a member of the board, he was pulled into the, to the information. He didn't need to be chair for doing what you did,
No.
going to meetings and stuff. What it says in here is that the chair basically sets the agenda, puts it in order, and runs the meetings. It doesn't say that they meet with the city and they negotiate, and that's what you can do as a board member. You don't need to be the chair to do that.
Yeah, I needed to have the authority of the chair to do what I've done in the last month.
Well, maybe in the
I mean,
last month.
And I don't know, you, Teresa.
So I feel that each board is unique, and each board is in a unique situation and has a unique mission. And just because one board does it one way doesn't mean that that's a good fit for another board. I think this board, having an election, is what's good for this board right now. And electing the chair and electing the vice chair, having everyone's consensus on the standing committees, the chair appoints them and we affirm them. And I think those are good policies for this board right now, and maybe for the next couple of years. I know that it's not easy to be the chair. It's not just running a meeting. I worked a lot of hours, a lot of my free time for this board that was not part of running a meeting, and it was not part of making an agenda. So I just feel that just because of the uniqueness and the unique circumstance we're in, that elections are what's good for this board right now, and that maybe in a year or 2 years, we can always review this again, because things flow and change and we adapt. But right now I'm supportive of how we're currently doing.
Well, let's open to public comment. I think Mr. White would like to say something.
Grab the cookie. I saw you looking at those cookies.
$5.
Oh, you have to buy a box
Or $6.
Trying to stay away from the cookies right now. I'll just share my experience. We went through this when I was at flood control. And I would say one good thing about a rotation is that when I was at flood control, we definitely had board members that knew they probably weren't going to have to serve as chairs, so they didn't really invest as much as they would have if they'd known they had to start learning what to do to prepare for sort of this imminent rotation. So they kind of just, hung out and weren't very active. And when people knew that especially once they became vice chair, that they were sort of on the hot seat, it did tend to motivate board members to be more engaged and more active. And I think it helped our board in general to have over time a series of board members that had done all of those tasks and were just, like when we had chairs go on vacation, we used to have to cancel a meeting because we didn't feel like we could have it after we had more experienced and engaged board members. I think it just made our board better. I don't disagree with what you've been saying about this institution for the last few years, but I think a lot of that is because you've not really had a consistent sort of on-the-ground knowledgeable type general manager here regularly. And I think with Dave here in that role for you guys now, a lot of that type of expertise that you've been leaning on board members to provide will probably not be quite as necessary as it was in the past. That's it.
that sparked something in my thought too. We do have staff, but we have part-time limited staff. And so I think when you rotate the chair position, it's a little easier when you have a lot of staff support. And we have very minimal staff support. Not that you're not valuable, but you're part-time and Chelsea's part-time. So, you know, when you look at the city or you look at the county, they have full departments supporting them. You know, and we don't, we're a small board. So there are some, you know, and I know he was talking about a water board, which is, you know, maybe apples to apples, but I think we're a little different circumstance right now, so.
I would say that if Ernie felt that he couldn't have done what he did unless he was chair this last month, is what basically you were saying, that you felt like you had the authority as chair to do, that maybe we go one more year so that he can feel like he buttons things up to where we're working more smoothly. Maybe there's enough issues right now that are still unsolved that need to be solved with someone who has the expertise in the process, and then once we feel that we've mellowed out and we have everything in line, then it won't be such a issue.
I'll tell you, none of you want to be in the position that I've been in for the last 2 months. Okay. I've spent, how much, Mark? $200?
Yeah.
Every bit.
And do you know how happy I am that I'm not chair?
Do you know how sad I am saying or not?
As an example, that whole refinancing that took place, that was primarily because Ernie was just working that thing through and through and through. If I had to sit on that thing probably would not have gone through, because I didn't have the background knowledge that he has. And so sometimes having somebody that's qualified, I think in that lead position is really important.
I would have a whole lot different opinion, I hope, in 6 months.
Yes,
Because
I
I hope in 6 months that all of this is in the rearview mirror.
Yeah.
We're looking through the windshield and figuring out where we're going instead of where we've been. And that all of our issues, you know, I think it's going to be, until April before we have this rate study really approved, although it looked pretty good when I read it today, or last night.
much better than the first draft, yes.
So, I don't know.
And if we ever do decide to rotate, we can always do ad hoc committees for special projects or processes or whatever, and put on the people that have that expertise.
Exactly. That's,
We do have that. And we also have, did we elect standing committees when you became chair? Did you appoint standing committees?
I think we did ad hocs, I'd have to check them.
I don't
think we just did it out, but I will check.
Yeah.
We do have a budget standing committee, a planning standing committee, and a
Yeah, even technically, yeah.
a committee that does the PPGs. So we have 3 standing committees, and then the executive committee made up of the chairman. Which maybe we should get around to, maybe standing committee.
So,
I think that we wanted to do ad hocs just so that they could meet without us having to post meetings,
yes.
so.
I'd like to hear from Julia.
Oh, we can look at it in a year, you know, again, for some time down the line.
I mean, it's been real interesting, this process. You know, I actually spent my last ski trip on either an email or the phone on every lift ride, and spent 3 hours in the lodge talking to Sage. So, it's been lots of fun. So anyway, well, do we have a motion? We have to. I think.
There's no motion and it just dies
Yeah, it just dies for right now.
for now. It can be brought back.
Okay.
We'll include some of the conversations in the minutes. Is that okay?
Yeah, but no motion, no motion, it just dies.
Just that the board maybe just reflect in the minutes that the board agreed to address the issue
At a future date.
6 months
Okay, so we have, other matters of business, announcements from the staff, director's reports, general manager's report. Let's start there.
Great, thank you, Ernie. So this month, your board packets, you guys had a lot of miscellaneous documents in there. I apologize for not providing the staff report, commenting on the different items that are in there. It's my intention, once we get the bonding financing things done, that I'll have time to do that better. So what's in your packet tonight is for discussion purposes only, because it's not on the agenda for action. And what I'd like to start off with is the rate study, just as a report. And one of the items in your packets were the draft.
No, we got that email.
Yeah, we didn't get it in the package,
Excuse
just
me,
email.
yes, you're right, that's correct. If you want a hard copy, we can provide that to you, to Chelsea Paul. And I think you may mention that when you sent out, but we can make a hard copy. It might be a good idea, because one of the other things we need to discuss is, we had scheduled, for today, the 12th, to have a joint meeting with the city of Ukiah to discuss the report, the rate study report. Neither the city or the district was prepared to do that. I think both agencies, I know we were very caught up in the bond refinance, and the city acknowledged that they were prepared to call a special meeting or a joint meeting with the district. So Mark Hildebrandt and Dan with the city and myself have been communicating for rescheduling a joint meeting, and we have a couple of dates that we'd like to run by you guys.
Do you think that prior to a special meeting that we could have prior to a joint meeting that we could have a special meeting to discuss this amongst our board?
I don't see any problem at all doing that if you guys want that. I think it might be a good idea.
Do we have a time limit?
Well, the Mark said the 26th, 27th, or 28th by Mark Hildebrandt, author of the report, works for him. The city had indicated that the 26th worked good with them for 4 p.m. And I think if you guys want to meet, and I'm not even sure how that works with you guys. I mean, we kind of have 3 days, 26th, 27th, 28th, that look like.
February?
Mr. Hildebrandt, February, thank you.
Only the 28th works for me.
I don't have the 27th.
Only the
I
28th.
think 26th.
What days are those?
That's a.
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Thank you.
Yeah, all three work for me.
Wednesdays and no-go.
Only Friday for
The
me.
28th works for you. And Ernie, I know you had one date.
I'm on an airplane on Friday, so it's either the 26th or 27th.
And Julie, you're not available.
And I won't-
on either one.
I'm in Wyoming.
And I won't be back until, for all intents and purposes, until the following week. Not like the 8th, the 9th of.
Well, it sounds like we could have a quorum on the 28th, but there's no way we're gonna have a full board on either one of those 3 days.
Yeah, no. I'll have whatever comments I can write them down.
Yeah. Do you want to go on into March and see?
He's gone the whole next week of March.
I'm going from the 28th to the 5th. So,
March 6th is Friday.
I'm gone then too.
so yeah, I'm fine with writing down my comments if everybody else can meet.
So that would be.
Is this just
Actually,
is the joint meeting presentation meeting? Are we going to be voting and accepting the rate study? What's the purpose of the meeting?
That's a great question, because if it's just purely informational, then Ernie can catch up with it at another time if we need to vote on it.
Sean?
I think the purpose of the meeting is both. I think it's informational, so everyone can hear all at the same time and together the premise and why the rate study was done the way it was. And then since it's a joint thing, everybody can hear the same questions and answers that everybody would hear. And then at the end of that, if everyone's comfortable, you can vote to approve it.
But there's no requirement that they vote at that time.
Nope.
They can send the.
I think it will be on the
district-
agenda, so they can, if they'd like to, but if they don't want to at that time.
Well,
they don't.
or the district doesn't even have to put it on the agenda that they could vote. They could just put it as an informational only and move forward.
I mean, is there a deadline that we have to vote
For
to
the
accept
refinance?
this?
No.
Well,
I
this
think
is
This is
refinance.
refinance. This
I
is
know,
the
but
rate
to
study.
refinance.
I think
you
the
know
city
it's
was
going
trying to
on.
get this approved by here July, so it seemed like July was sort of a deadline to get everything on, I guess, so you could have it.
There was an April, I wanna say 1st of April date.
So we could do
That
the second week of
I
March.
read in that document, I read
Are
that.
you guys?
No,
And
March
the pertinent parts that I really wanted to make sure that they had dealt with is they had included the refinance debt. So everything's based on the refinance debt, not on the previous ABAG debt. And that was always my concern, that we were gonna go through the process, have it all figured out on the wrong debt service, which then didn't mean anything.
Well, that's why, They
That's
waited.
why we tabled it.
yeah.
But since the refinance was right there, which it is, then they completed it, and I read through it to make sure that that was what they had done it off of, rather than, I just had to rest my mind when I got it. I had to read it to make sure that
And it was.
Yeah, it was.
What about March 11th, 12th, or 13th?
Because 11th is our regular meeting, we could do it either after our regular meeting or the next day, the 12th. Then we could talk about it in our meeting and then meet with the city the 12th or right after it.
Well, we're also stretching, at some point, we need to start working on a joint meeting to discuss the jail. Can we, do we dare do it at the same meeting?
No,
I don't
gosh,
think so.
no.
I think,
It's a bad-
Why don't you just stick to it?
if we bring dinner and some provisions.
Let's do something positive before we go.
No, I'm hoping it goes real smooth, but, we'll.
Ernie, I've got the itinerary from Mr. Hildebrand. So February 12th, which was, we were going to do, so if this thing is rescheduled next week, I believe the itinerary would still be the same. Joint board council meeting to present, request, and ask for permission to send the Prop 218 notice. Late February would be send out Prop 218 notice. April, public hearing by board and council. And then July 1st, rates become effective. So I think they probably want to have some kind of commitment from
And the notice will have the rates in it, so we have to approve
Prop
them.
218.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if we do it in March, we'll have time to read the report and digest it.
Is there a problem if we do it in March then with meeting the July 1st deadline?
I think there's some, and maybe Sean can answer this better, there is a necessity to put out a 218 notice to the public, or Doug that has a certain publication and time frame that it has to
And it's
run
every 2 weeks.
prior to.
I think it's every 2 weeks for a month, or there's a requirement of how long we have to give notice, which affects everything. But, my concern is you not being at the joint meeting and addressing your concerns and making sure that they're met, as well as everybody else, and the board having to approve, because that's, before you send out the notice, the board has to approve the rates.
Right.
How about,
And
we're
so-
shooting Wednesday, how about Tuesday? How about, I know Monday's a holiday, but how about Tuesday? Can everybody make Tuesday?
No, that's Mark's, Hildebrand said those 3 days are the only days he was available.
You mean in February?
In February.
In February, right? You're talking
Yeah,
February.
You
talking
can't, you can't. do it
25th.
I can't do it till
Yeah.
Friday.
Okay, just,
Thursday or Friday works.
I can't do it.
I can do it Thursday. You won't be here Thursday.
I won't be here Thursday.
You will be.
I will not.
Oh, you will.
Is there still consideration about a special meeting before we have the joint meeting? Is that,
Well,
are you going to discuss that?
Well,
That
do
kind of
you wanna
depends
write
on
down your
the-
comments and
Joint meeting?
we'll have it on Thursday, and then we'll have a special meeting before we have the joint meeting?
But isn't Thursday the joint meeting, or is that just a meeting with Hildebrand?
That would be the village meeting with Hildebrand. Or is he asking for the
I thought that
joint?
was.
Yeah, that's the joint
That was
meeting.
oh,
That's the
okay.
joint meeting.
Right,
With the city
Huh.
council.
right.
It's not working out
Which
very
takes us
well.
back to Tuesday or Wednesday.
We wouldn't have a meeting just with Hildebrand and the board.
No.
It
No,
would
no,
be
no.
the joint meeting.
The joint meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know, but I already feel like anxiety over having to pass this so that we could get the Prop 218 notice out, so that you can raise everybody's rates before we've even had
Or lower.
questions answered, and
Right.
maybe they need to go research something before they give me an answer, or, I don't know, I'm feeling a little anxiety about this
Too
timeline
fast.
being so, yeah. I mean, this is not something we should be rushing.
And we could call Hildebrand
Have
directly.
have you seen it, Teresa?
I
I read-
didn't have time to read
I read
it.
the executive
I read it.
summary, and I had some questions.
One suggestion is to go back to Hildebrand and then schedule a special meeting of the board so you can discuss options and timelines and what needs to happen when. Are we really that pressed for time? Does it have to be done by February?
Dave,
2
can
week
I-
deadlines?
Well, I'm thinking the only reason they want it done by July 1st is because that's the beginning of the fiscal year, right?
To start the new rates, yeah.
But-
He wants to initiate.
Right.
And the,
But does it have to be done in February, initiated in February to meet the July 1st deadline, or
Can
can
do
there
it in
be?
March.
one thing, another consideration is the reason they want it done by July is that, you know, that's a condition of the financing. You know,
Because there's public hearing
Right.
requirements.
the rate,
Well, yeah.
the rate.
Yeah, there is, so the 218, there is, that's what the
So,
finance
if
are
If they
required.
send it out late February, there's April public hearing by board and the council, and July 1st rates effective. So there must be a
But-
2 month.
Yeah, and I don't know it off the top of my head, is can't you still meet the July 1st deadline by having it
Yeah,
in
that's what
March?
that's what.
That's,
Thank you.
that's the question, is can you do this in March as opposed to in February and still meet the requirements for the hearing?
Well, that's, when are you leaving, Julie? Do you have time to review it if we could
Yeah, I-
schedule a meeting?
She has questions.
I mean, where you could make your comments if we're gonna hit the deadlines. Is it possible, if everybody else could make it, like on Thursday, would it be possible for you to make your comments? I don't know, you know, I think it's gonna be pretty optimistic to try to schedule up the city council by next Thursday. No,
And
Mr. Hildebrand also, January 31st was the deadline to receive comments from both the city and the district.
Wait a minute, we didn't have
We
a
never
finished
got to
copy
that.
by
And the
January
administrative
31st.
draft report.
But how you can make comments on something you don't have?
Well, I got it to you with the
I mean, because I remember getting the smaller version, which
I
I
think
had
we
a
were-
boatload of questions about.
We had the whole report, right?
That was just the
Emailed to us?
PowerPoint presentation, it wasn't the report.
That was just the summary thing, yeah. But the whole report, we also got that by email. Did you not get that by email?
Mean like
I sent it to the whole board.
Yeah, you
Yes,
sent it to me.
yeah.
Yeah, that was yesterday.
Yesterday,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, you guys gotta get to reading.
Well, I did go through it, I just, yeah.
So, I'm not chair, so I actually have a life now. And,
I don't, I read it, no.
part of it's sitting on that table.
So Dave, can you find out tomorrow if there's an issue with the deadlines and what the last possible date would be for us to do this, to be able to have them effective July 1st?
The joint meeting, you mean?
Yeah.
The joint
Well,
meeting
only if the joint
needs
meeting
approval.
needs a resolution at the end.
It
If
does.
if they're asking for some sort of
Yeah, they are.
passage, yeah.
Pretty clear they do.
Yes.
So can you guys come up with a date in March,
Yeah.
part of March that you think so that I can at least present that to the city and to Mr. Hildebrand?
March 11th, 12th, or 13th. The 11th is our regular meeting. 11, 12, or 13.
Yeah, I think it would
I'm
be
fine.
like
I'm
this
just out
one
of
done
town
like
those
at
days
4, you
that I
know, so they
said.
don't overlap or whatever.
Pardon me?
It'll be probably like this one early, so it can be on regular.
When it was
board
snowing,
meeting.
I might be skiing.
Yeah,
For a clock.
yeah,
Wishful
before our
thinking.
regular.
I'm way wishful thinking, Doug. I'm praying.
7 degrees out there
That's
today.
what
So we had,
It's probably about
Julie, you
70
said,
degrees at the top of
March,
the mountain.
11th, 12th, or
Because-
13th.
March 11th, 12th, or 13th on the.
Nice spring skiing if you're in
Yeah,
Canada.
the 12th is, in the
16
water
and
subcommission for me. That's not till 6, it's at 6, so if we
You
have,
think this would be at 4?
okay.
On the 11th, or the
11th is our
End of
regular.
the meeting would probably be at 4.
Let's try to do it Wednesday.
11th at 4, and then we have our meeting at 6.
Is that, hang on, folks,
We can.
is that
Our
a,
meeting is gonna be a
regular
special
meeting.
meeting.
I can't do it.
We can change.
I
we
can't
can
do it on
cancel the
Wednesday.
regular
I have a
meeting.
a bank meeting. That's a one day.
It'll be
I can't do it.
And what time's the bank meeting?
Bank meeting's at 2.
And it doesn't get out by 4?
I can't guarantee that. Got out at 3:30 today, but a lot of times it'll go until 5, so.
What about the
No, I don't
12th, the
have
next
one,
day? Thursday the
but I
12th.
have a roadie and I'm not.
6.
What about
my roadie's
Wednesday at
getting
5?
updated.
You can just go from one meeting to the other.
Oh,
I
we
can-
have,
I can
we have,
do that.
we have a
I mean,
board
yeah.
meeting, we have
It's
our.
not like you have the job to do.
Yeah, but that's okay. If we,
40 inches.
what
Yeah.
happens is if we don't
3
have
feet.
quorum for our board,
Space
then
above
it
it,
can
so
start
you can
late
sit in there.
or.
We just say it starts when the other meeting's over.
Our
I
board
mean,
meeting.
it is a regular meeting, so it is supposed to be at
Yeah,
6
my roadie's
p.m., but if we don't
getting
have
updated.
quorum and quorum is here at 6:30, we can start it.
And you can also always cancel the regular meeting and schedule a special meeting for that day at a different time.
Yeah,
I
okay.
mean, that's perfectly
That's a good idea.
acceptable.
Well, I don't believe there's gonna be a whole lot of business on our next board meeting, other than the discussion of the rate study with the city council, if we can set it up.
Yeah.
Now, I don't see, we've got the refinance pretty much behind us here, I don't, Mark, you see any issues?
No, with the refinance, that's gonna be
That's gonna be over,
baked in, yeah, I think in a week.
yeah.
Wunderbar.
We did get that, letter today about, the necessity of the audit prior to the refi. Right? Yeah, that was from you, right?
That's right.
No, Dave sent that.
But anyway, I contacted the auditors on behalf of the folks, the bond refinance team. And ideally, they would like to have the audit done by the 24th, is when the refinancing closes.
Right.
I suspect it'll be February, or the end of February. But there's some paperwork to be done. And that was my only point. You'll be getting some stuff from the auditors about different things that they want you to certify. And I would just encourage you to turn those things around as prudently as you can. Read them and answer them thoughtfully, but
So you don't
get
see
it done.
You don't see that having any problems? We should be able to make that deadline?
The auditor today said that he saw nothing at this point in time that would prohibit him making the end of the month.
Okay.
So unless something turns up between today and the rest of the process, you know, I can't answer that, but right now we're on schedule to have it done by the end of the month.
So what did we set in March?
We have Wednesday at 5. This is the joint meeting with the city.
Wednesday at 5.
Would it be in city council?
And it would be a special meeting for us.
So it's Wednesday, March 11th.
Well, we're taking these dates down, so that's.
That's what we're gonna suggest to them, yeah.
Any other dates, times? 12,
Is
13?
it 12th to 13th?
Yes, 12th and 13th,
That works for me.
and then the 16th
Wednesday.
and 7th.
So 12th and 13th work for
Wednesday.
everyone?
Yeah, the only days I can't make it are
This is
the second and fourth Wednesday. And that's why I wanted to move this meeting to the second Wednesday when I first got on the board, because then, you know, this time of year I usually try to take off skiing or whatever,
Oh,
but,
yeah.
you know, on the second and fourth Wednesday, I have to be in town because I have to go to the savings bank board meeting.
Should definitely move our board meeting dates to accommodate your needs.
I know, you should.
You should.
I mean, there are
I'm the chair,
priorities
I'm
in
the
life.
board,
too.
right?
So Dave, on the
The
12th,
joint meeting is a
I
special
have
meeting.
Inland Water Power Commission at
It does
6.
even have.
So I have to
Was that
start,
the Wednesday one?
that's Thursday.
Okay, so
So-
we're still good
They can
for
always-
Wednesday.
we can
Yeah,
schedule
but
it
if
for an
we're
hour
looking for a
before the
second
same day.
date, I could do 4 o'clock on Thursday or before, but I just have to be at Inland Water
Thursday,
Power. at-
Or earlier.
As does
And
Sean.
Friday.
And then,
Friday's okay.
Does Friday work for everybody also?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
is Friday the date?
Well,
Yeah.
I think it would probably be best on Wednesday,
13.
if we can do it at 5, then we can have our regular meeting after that,
Okay,
and then, if that doesn't work, then maybe Thursday or Friday.
And obviously,
After
the
that.
more information they get to us ahead of time that we can look at and read and digest, the better. It'll make the meeting go faster.
okay. So Wednesday's
You'd think that'd be obvious.
Wednesday, the 11th.
Right?
Well, I think we're gonna deal with that 54-page document there, or I think it was 54, 56.
Wednesday, the 11th,
But
March
you're
11th.
right, it's pretty easy.
And then it was the 12th and 13th.
And I thought all the assumptions were valid. The only thing that's creating Teresa is the 300 cubic feet that were previously gifted, or, you know, in the, not in the rate, or now
In the base rate, yeah.
Yeah, in the base rate. So there was an 11% increase on the lowest use, which was $5. And the upper usage actually lowered by nearly 10%.
Well, and the lowest users are generally your single older people, so you're hitting your vulnerable constituents with the rate increase.
But it's,
I remember when it was $16.50 something.
Yeah.
And I had a guy come and complain because it was so high and.
because it had gone from
how could-
$12.
Yeah, right.
It was $12 forever.
Yeah. I remember going, really, okay, well.
Just hand them a 20 and say, be happy for the next 4 months, right?
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, so-
So we're going to the 11th, which is Wednesday, which is our regular meeting date.
Yes.
So we're gonna do that at.
Shoot for
6
5.
o'clock? 5. Okay. And then the 12th is Thursday, so then we're shooting at 4. And then the 13th is Friday, and the time you guys had.
4, again, had to agree with everybody.
So we'll send this.
So we have 3 days.
And let them know. Okay, then do we want to set up time for a special meeting to discuss it before these dates?
That would be 3 meetings in 1 week. Regular, joint, and then special.
Well, a special meeting would probably be the
Doesn't
first.
have to be that way.
And the regular meeting can be canceled, and the special meeting can be held an hour before the joint meeting, so you guys can discuss everything before you go in there.
Plus we have the next 4 weeks to have that meeting.
And if you, depending on when you get the information from
Who's-
all of the information.
Who's the expert on this that will be asking all our questions?
Well, Mr.
So the only thing that we really need to check after we've decided all these dates is that if that's valid for the time frame for the 2/18 notification.
And if the city can do it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Can the city do it and does it work within a time frame that's required for the 2/18 for the notice in a public hearing?
And he can email us and let us know, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because this is all just scheduling issues, so
Right,
there's
okay.
no Brown Act's concern. You don't discuss the issue of it, you're just discussing the scheduling of the meetings and when you can meet, and that's fine.
Okay, are we talking about the, workshop, we're gonna call it workshop session?
We were just saying that once you do find out, you could email all of us and let us know in
Okay,
advance so we can
Perfect.
block it on our calendars. Thank you.
So once we get back from the city, then
I think that's really all that I have for the rate study. And guys have
I have a
any
question.
questions?
Yeah, can you give an update on the bond refinance, what's been
Yes.
happening?
Oh, there you go, next. We are just about across the finish line, I think. Wow. We have a closing date, for, Monday, the 24th. And really, if you correct me, if you think, of February. Let's see. I want to pass these out.
is that what I think it is?
I hope so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, it is.
I just got this, this afternoon, and Mark's here, and thank you, Mark, for
Sure.
showing up this evening. So he will be,
Thank you.
gosh, Mark, maybe, since the board really hasn't had a chance to look at it, is there a couple of things you'd like to sort of bring to the board's attention?
Sure.
If you would, please.
Yeah, no, these are prepared by Stifel, the same group that prepared it for the city. And it's really a source and use of funds document. There may be some small changes to this as we get to the final documents themselves that they sign, but this should be very, very close indeed if it's not accurate at the moment. You can see the source and use of funds on page 1, which are the amount that the bond proceeds at par, and the reserve contribution that $2,500,000 is the additional monies that the district is using to pay down the debt. I think the page probably of most interest to the board, and you can go through this, would be the savings. That is on page 5,
yeah.
Page 5. And that shows you the savings over the life of the bonds in terms of absolute dollars, then the present value in the far right-hand column, $6.4 million. Down in the savings summaries, however, is the subtraction of that $2.5 million, and there was $122,000 of some money that was sitting in escrow, I think, from the 2006 bonds that will still be paid out. So this, in terms of net present value savings, will be about $4.3 million then for the district and well over close to $8 million yes.
So, the city's savings was significantly less. Is that why their increase for their rates?
You know, I can't speak for the city. I didn't really look at theirs in depth. I went to the presentation that they had, and Dan Buffalo spoke upon those things, yeah, but I don't think I can
That's
comment
okay,
on
I'll
I
call.
think they had to achieve coverage, they had to raise rates because of the payout from the settlement.
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mark, you kind of stopped, you were saying something, about the absolute, the savings,
Sure, so you see the savings column is in dollars, is $7.8 million roughly.
yeah,
And the present value is, of that, is $6.4 million. But since the district's gonna pay down 2.5 at the time of the closing, it turns out to be 4.3 present value. A substantial amount of money.
Nice.
And the city's, the paper that you're evaluating there from the city may change also. There was discussion today about, the city actually having a different amount that they were financing, I believe.
Yeah, so they still have.
They're still working through theirs.
Yeah.
are they planning to close the same date on?
Yes, that's a condition of the bank. Both parties are, we're coordinating that now so that everybody has their wire information and amounts.
Can you explain redemption provision 7-year par call at the top, what that means?
I think for these particular bonds, they can be called in 7 years and refinanced. I'd have to go back to the term
That means
sheet.
we couldn't refinance again for
At least 7 years.
Yeah, okay, yeah. What was it before? It was 10 years, I think.
I think the initial bonds were 10 years.
I don't think that's correct.
I think
Yeah,
so.
I believe that's correct.
Okay.
It's a killer rate, it's a good deal,
Yeah.
it's a great deal.
Those are the two good takeaways.
Yeah, never makes the newspaper.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Well,
Say
I don't think
7 million,
anything
say
has
4
been
million, say.
publicly announced after the little spiel Sage gave, what, a couple weeks ago, when we had our meetings.
They watch our meeting and report on what they want to report on, so.
Yeah.
they don't want to
It's all
report
good.
us.
I think when we finish when we cross the finish line, it's all been done, might be a good time to.
Do a press release again.
Sure.
Yeah. You wanna wait till escrow closes.
I forgot about that.
Don't wanna jump.
If you need help with that, we can help you with that.
Yeah, we wanna have this,
Yeah.
we wanna have the money transferred, the bonds paid off, then you can do the hard bit.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, you bet, you bet.
Couple more are in here. The other items you had in your packet was the November financials and present to actual budget. I think that was also included. Was that the handout or was that an email?
The what?
That was the email. The financials.
I like it.
So this was put in because this is what we're working on with CLA, Jeff Peak, to have this document each month for the board's review. So we're getting there. This, of course, is November, but ultimately you will have the previous month to look at when we get to the board meeting. But we're
It's
not
still being tweaked, right, because I can see some issues there. Okay, so that's wonderful, that's great.
So I thought we would at least include this because you've been working on this for a long time and just wanted to, you guys an opportunity to see it.
It's very nice to have that, to know where you are every month and the changes and, yeah. So thank you very much.
Thanks for our financial people. That's
Then the last item is the LAFCO, the Municipal Service Review Questionnaire that LAFCO has requested. I think it was back in December. We received notice that this was LAFCO wanted to update the district's Municipal Service Review. And so you guys have the board approved to have staff retain John Sharp's assistance in preparing this document. We've met twice and we talked with LAFCO, UMA, and we hope to have it completed by the end of this month. So,
Really?
I'm not.
Really?
John said that to UMA, so I was like, really? That's what I said to him. So, you know,
Is there an estimate of hours that are gonna be spent on it, that it will take?
you know, filling out the questionnaire, and I know you are experienced with this, is not a too difficult process. It's the supporting documents and things that we would like to include in there, and that's what I'm looking to Mr. Sharp to assist us with, and what he feels with his experience with LAFCO's comments that we can make to the operations of the district, and all that we feel that will best benefit the district in LAFCO's review, and in light of the issues that are going on in the valley and stuff, we feel this is going to be a pretty important document to have, and hopefully we get together and we are able to do it correctly and right. Maybe hope that the LAFCO agency and those can read through it, and because I think we've got a lot of information with items that have been going on in the district. The grand jury report that we prepared, we'd like to have that be, because they want to see any grand jury reports in the last 5 years or something. So, and, you know, we spent a lot of time on that.
The most depressing part of this is the time that we spent and the acknowledgement that we got.
And that's correct.
That was really depressing.
That's the
Didn't she give us a due date for that as well?
for the municipal service review.
Yeah. I think she gave us to the 28th.
When we told them we thought we could have this done by the end of February. But
They're not combining it with the SOI? It's separate?
Yeah, I think they made it separate.
sphere of influence.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that that's I think, I'm assuming this document will be used too, because I know the city has been talking about amending their sphere of influence as well, so they'll probably want to see those.
And they've actually brought that before Blackville, so.
Well, did you look at, you haven't looked at the map. You need to look at the map on that, attached to the questionnaire.
It's a lot of percent, yes.
It's a lot.
And I'm not, we have our maps in the office there, but I think that just shows current district boundaries. I don't think
It shows current district boundaries.
doesn't show our sphere of influence.
The sphere of influence has been proposed to expand to take some of the Brush Street Triangle, and what I believe is really important is Ford Road, because there's some really good projects that want to go on Ford Road. There's a collector main that runs down Ford Road. There's a trunk main that runs through the properties, and they can't get sewer service to develop.
So is it in no man's land, Ford Road?
It-
I mean, it's not in the city,
It's in
and
no
it's not
man's
in the,
land.
oh,
No man's land.
okay.
After you go under the freeway, you're in no man's land.
But for those, even though it's not in our boundaries or our sphere, we could still do a, contract with them, out of service,
Out of area service agreement.
out of area
And
service agreement.
we were, Doug, there were some issues that would be a lot cleaner if it could,
Yeah.
If it was included in our,
if it could be included in our district.
Yeah, I know, but those people have been asking for at least a year and a half now.
Actually, more like,
2 years?
like 8.
Oh, well, I'm only aware of the last
Yeah. Well,
year and a half or 2 years, so.
when Dan Thomas and Charlie Sawyer purchased that property from Masonite, they said, Ernie, we gotta get sewer. I said, well, hell, sewer lines run all over the place out there. Why don't you just get sewer? And then they started the process, and it's been the sphere of influence and the municipal service review and blah, blah, blah. It's gone on for.
What about the Brush Street Triangle? Is that in no man's land, or is that definitely?
Some of it is in, Brush Street is in the district. North of Brush Street is no man's land.
Okay.
There's a large
So things haven't
chunk of land in there.
no,
8 years.
no, not since you.
Okay.
We haven't had
Same.
an MSR since I've been on this board for 10, 11 years. So,
And I don't think that LAFCO would approve the district, we were to make application to LAFCO to annex the Ford Road project down there until the MSR is.
That's been the holdup.
That's the
Yeah.
first step, yeah.
That when Thomas and Sawyer tried to do it, that was the holdup. Yeah. Needed a municipal service review.
and that's
So-
why we give LAFCO
$9,000
$12 grand,
a
15
year.
grand a year.
So, any other issues?
That's all I've got.
I'm not saying-
Yeah.
No letters?
Yeah,
we got a letter.
do we have we need to go through this.
We do have a little sort of letter.
I don't have a staff report, but there is, a letter that's, you can find underneath the stack of documents, to Wilster, the conditional Wilster. And that's all I have.
So this is another development, not the one that was just
This
finished?
is one right across the street.
Oh,
It's
on
rural
Brush.
community housing
on the south side?
on the south side of Brush. And rural community housing has, this is the first, I believe, of 3 phases that would be, probably ultimately somewhere around 120 units.
So are they going to fill in that area where they burned the house down? Because the line of sight is so nice to have right now.
I don't think I think that they'll have better setbacks.
Okay,
You
okay.
know, I believe that, you know,
They'll require.
Yeah.
in the project that's going to happen now, there's a 50-foot setback from Brush Street to the first building.
Okay.
There's parking and bus stops and things that, you know, have pushed it back where you'll have line of sight. I think everybody's a little more cognizant of line of sight than they used to be now. Or they built a house and then built a street around it, which
Yeah.
really didn't work very well.
So what do we
Chelsea,
need to do with this?
anything else?
Anything else?
Not right now. There's a lot going on, but I don't have anything right now.
So do we need to do anything?
No.
No, I think you just have to be aware that
Be aware of it.
we are handing out 40, or 6/10 of 40 ESSUs.
Yeah.
Because these are small.
Because it's a district manager can approve those.
Okay.
He has authority to approve them, so within,
Yeah, we have plenty of ESSU, we have plenty of capacity. There's a large trunk main running down that, or I guess it's probably a collector main, but it's a 15-inch pipe that we'd have to mount a manhole on.
So from now on, are we supposed to say ESSUs instead of ESS? I mean,
There's too many letters. Well, the reason that they did it that way, Ken, is, I believe if you read that, is
I did.
it was the designation for a residential unit or a commercial unit is called out differently because it's based on flow more than the residential unit is fixed unless you use a lot of water. And then there's a bump for the more consumption that you have. And the commercial is based on consumption. That's why I think they differentiated it.
Yeah, I understood that, I mean, to be really correct though, it sounds like the ESSU is kind of going by the wayside.
No, I think as far as our capacity allocation that we'll make as people connect, it'll be called an ESSU.
Okay.
I think in this evaluation, they have to split it because of the customer type.
Okay.
And, you know, it was broken into how many customers fit into each one of those categories, right? Okay. So, okay, so
Can you remove closed session from the agenda?
we're, yeah, I duffed that one. I should have done that right off the bat. But we're gonna remove item 7, which leaves us to the last one, which would be adjournment.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What time?
What time?
And, well,
It's
if we want an
7:10.
official time,
7:10.
yeah, people were calling me, I tell you.
Yeah, right.
Chelsea,